great question. All right. Okay. So I've got here above, I've got a Blue Yeti, and this is on a caster arm because sound, as you know, as a podcast professional, is better from above. And I'm quite frequently typing and doing lots of other things because I'm facilitating. So if I've got the sound down here, then you can actually hear it. So that is up there. The camera is a distance away because one of the things I teach is body language. You have to be able to see all of me in frame so I can teach people how to do stagecraft as well. So I'm in the sit-stand position. So at the moment I'm standing because I've just come off teaching something else. So yeah, great questions. I've just got a little Logitech because it needs to be mobile, the camera. Because I have to take the studio on the road. So if I'm traveling, I still need to have a separate suitcase, which has got a mobile studio, and everything is duplicated in another bag, and that's ready to go. In fact, I'm actually off to Melbourne this afternoon. And
are you really? Look at you.
I've got a separate, and I'm taking the studio bag with me because even though I'm doing 3 days of live event, in between time, I still have to do online as well. So it's all happening.
You're jet setting. That's fantastic. Well, we have a pretty similar setup then. Yours just looks a lot better than mine, but that's what I'm working out. Okay. So that wasn't actually part of the podcast, but it's on the it's banked in for the live streamers. So that's fantastic because we're all about learning here. But I'll kick us off. Have a little sip of cleansing H2O. Welcome back to the Coaches to the Moon podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very blessed to be here today with Sharlene Lynch. She is an international speaker. She is a multi-passionate entrepreneur. She's a veteran workshop facilitator with 30 plus years experience in the business coaching space. Sharlene, thank you so much for being here all the way from Adelaide, Australia.
Oh, Alex, it's just a privilege and a pleasure to be here and share information with your audience.
Great. Well, I've got to say, first of all, like we've been talking for about 10 minutes now, which doesn't usually happen. But I'm just really inspired by you and your energy. And I know you've been through some really hard stuff. So it's really great to see you thriving, Sharlene.
Thank you, Alex. And when we first met, you said, "How are you?" And my response is always magnificently magnificent, because you know what? We are every day above ground is a good day. And we as coaches need to be a reflection of the outcome people are looking for in us. And that's all the time. So am I on all the time? If I'm not on, I'm sleeping.
Love that. Well, it seems like it comes naturally for you. And I could not agree more that coaches need to actually, focus on spreading that positive role model vibe a little more, because there's so many people, I don't know if you see it, because coaches, a lot of people in the space are into a more holistic style of living or more slightly like less engaged with authority, that kind of thing. The last couple of years, a lot of people on their coaching pages have just been bitching and just saying very triggering things. And it's like, this isn't going to sell your programs. You're just being negative. And so I don't know why people do it, but I love a good smile. So thank you.
It's so true, because people come, like a lady that just contacted me yesterday to sign up for one of my VIP programs. I haven't heard from her in 10 years. And yes, and she's been stalking me for 10 years. So she hasn't commented on any of my so this is really important universal lesson, if you're listening today, is that even though they're not posting or liking your messages, even though you cannot even see they're connected, they're watching you. They're watching every aspect of what you do on your LinkedIn, on your Twitter, on your Facebook, wherever it is that you're hanging, they're watching, and they might not even be at that point where they can actually connect. So everything that you do needs to be authentic, and it needs to be in line with who you are, your brand, and what it is that you're offering and sharing with the world.
There you go. The first soundbite for the podcast. Very, very true, Sharlene Lynch. And I couldn't agree more. As a marketer, I have a lot of clients who maybe come in with a little bit too optimistic of an expectation of what marketing can do for them in terms of how fast it can work. And maybe they'll be posting organic content suddenly, 3 times a day or 7 times a week, or launching ads, and things aren't happening yet. But then a few months down the track, they'll say, hey, that person, they saw a post I did when I first started working with you, and they've just signed up as a client with no objections whatsoever. So people are watching, and it is it's a long-term investment, this coaching space, isn't it? It's not an overnight success, as a lot of people would say.
It's not an overnight. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It never was designed that way. And anyone who's out there sort of toiting that, I've got to say they're probably on their chapter 20 and you might be on your chapter 1. So, and I actually haven't met anyone who has been an overnight success. I've been around for more than 30 years, and there's always a backstory, and there's a story that you haven't seen yet. So yeah, don't compare your chapter 1 to their chapter 20.
Soundbite number 2, ladies and gentlemen, from Sharlene Lynch. Let's kick it off. Let's go. Let's talk about embracing change, because I know that that's something you help workplaces with, embracing change. And the world has shifted more than we could possibly fathom over the last few years. And a lot of people in business or otherwise are struggling with change. So what's the biggest thing to remember when we're facing periods of big change in our lives?
Such a big question. So from a coaching perspective, and I'm talking now to coaches because that's our audience here, is to see the big picture. See the big picture. So these tiny things that happen, and for some of us, these things that are happening might feel like they are war and peace, that they might feel like they're a giant cliff face. But in fact, if you have a look and take a step back and see the bigger picture, it's just a tiny pebble. A tiny pebble on the sea, tiny pebble on the sand. So getting that perspective is the biggest thing. So things have been happening for us, and that's the other thing, is to see that everything that happens for us, not to us. So when we change our language and see that change happens for us, not to us, then we become the victor in this rather than the victim, and it changes our language, our thought process, and then it also piques our curiosity. What could this be about? And putting that space between thought and action, so you're creating that opportunity for you to lean in and learn what this change is about. We as humans, we hang on with our fingernails, and we claw on to the things that we know, because we create that as our identity, and it helps us be who we are. And little changes, it depends on your personality type, but little changes can irk you, and then bigger changes can just blow you out of the water. The thing is, we are living in an ever-evolving planet, an ever-evolving universe, and change is a requirement to move forward. So yeah, seeing the big picture, letting go a little bit, having a little faith, and definitely changing your language in and around the change process.
I think that's totally true. And it's funny because that whole things happening to you versus happening for you or by you, it's kind of like day one personal development, but we still need to pull ourselves back and do it every now and then, don't we? If shit hits the fan, it's very easy to still, yell at someone in traffic and call them a dickhead, or blame someone else and shove off the responsibility in our own lives. But it's really good to have to remember that every now and then.
It's so true, Alex. And in sort of corporations and companies right now that are going through massive changes thanks COVID, is getting everybody on board with that. And that's the biggest thing. So when they can see the big picture, and when they can see that it's happening for them rather than to them, and then everyone gets collectively in on the process and sees what they can contribute towards the change, it really makes a huge difference for companies. And also as coaches, you might be in a position where you're starting to scale and starting to get some team. You might have a VA, you might have onboarded Alex as your marketer. And, now that you've got team, there's going to be lots of different aspects of your business that you need to manage. And change is going to be one of those things that you're going to need to manage on a daily basis.
It is scary. I'm in a bit of a period like that myself. I'm in the kind of the uptick of a little S curve where I'm moving upwards. I was at the same level for a while, and now I'm hiring another team member. I'm launching more ads. I'm investing more in growth, and trying to not feel the pressure of it too much. But you do feel a bit of pressure still every now and then when change happens. But I know that it pretty much always works out in one way or another, as long as I keep moving forwards. So even if it's not how you expect. So what changes have you got going on at the moment?
I live in a land of change.
Yeah.
So I have, I'm OCD, but at a point where it's manageable. And so
just to stop there, are you actually, or is it like a way that people say it? Because my wife actually is.
So just for the record, and you can research this, you can find out, guys, so I'm not sharing anything that I don't speak publicly about, is that through my shift process, I've recovered from OCD to a point that it's manageable. So it used to be self-harm. And so once you've got OCD, it doesn't go away. It's a lifelong brain processing. So OCD, ADHD, dyslexic, suffered from manic depression. Like, the list is massive. So the shift process definitely works. Yes, and change affects us differently. So even changing the time of the flight or changing my seat on a plane. So I need to be in a space where I can manage my anxiety and my it's something, an ongoing process with me. And, I love this, is that when I stand on stage in front of thousands of people and talk, they see this image of me, and yet I still have a level of anxiety packing to go on a plane. So, and that's a lesson for everybody who's listening, is you need to be that level of authentic. You can't just go, this is what's happening, it's rosy, it's shiny. And, that doesn't make you really real, because the people that you're helping, they have these levels of challenges on a daily basis. And when you can be in your own power and choose to be that level of vulnerable, you will have a different level of client come to you. They'll connect to you as well. And, so one of the reasons why I talk about change is because I manage it on a daily basis.
Love it. And we are huge pushers of authenticity here at Coaches to the Moon. And whenever we work with clients, because they're going to find out one way or another what you really like if they pay for you, right? So let's just put it out there in the open. That's why, I don't try and have anything fancy in the background here. I've got my kids' shoes over there. I've got a bookshelf full of books I've never read, and a wine fridge, because it's how we like to live, right? People will figure out one way or another. I haven't read I tried to read a book recently, didn't work, because I'm definitely undiagnosed, but I've been told by dozens of people in my life that there's an ADHD tendency in me as well. And I think you kind of need to have a little bit of that as an entrepreneur, right? To to be able to just, handle a lot of things, just to be able to shift your attention, between all your different internet tabs, whether or not the world creates that for us, the ADHD thing, just because of the amount of information being thrown at us all the time, or whether it's ingrained in us, who knows? But I think we're on the same page with a lot of things. And I'm really glad to see you've shifted through a lot of the stuff that was probably pretty difficult. So very proud of you. On that, I want to move into another topic that you talk about in your speeches and your presentations, which is helping people to navigate the gap from where they are now to where they want to be. I noticed something really interesting, Sharlene, when I started personal development, growth, learning about success, that kind of thing. As I became aware of what was possible, where I wanted to be got a lot further away from where I was now. I was pretty content as a chef with a little granny flat and a girlfriend, feeling pretty good. When I learned about coaching, income, personal development, suddenly that gap was a lot bigger and I wasn't very happy with where I was, even though before I had been happy. So for the people out there who are maybe beginner entrepreneurs, they're kicking off a journey to build something, how can they actually start to close that gap, but more importantly, feel good about where they are currently?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. So the very first letter of the shift process is see the big picture. And in that, when your eyes are open and you see all of the possibilities, exactly, Alex, what you said, you can see the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So there's a couple of things. So the next letter in the shift process is hone in on reality. That's what you were referring to, where you can see that gap. Is that we need to take stock of what it is that we are right now and what we've brought to the planet so far. And just because you've changed direction doesn't mean you need to discount what you bring to the table. So I changed direction. I was an accountant and then I decided to become a psychologist. Well, becoming a psychologist doesn't mean I have to discount the fact that I'm an accountant. In fact, it adds another flavor to the fact that I understand business, and it actually just enriches what I can talk about. So we need to just take stock of who we are, what we've got, what we bring to the table, our values, all of these things, and not discount them, because even though you can't see it yet, each of these skill sets that you bring to the table are going to be important moving forward, because they make you uniquely who you are and what you bring to this planet. Now, the gap, it does seem large, and I get it, because, you know, I for myself, even where it is that I want to go and where I am now, there's still such a huge gap. But what I do is I take stock of where I am, and I also find spaces for gratitude on a daily basis. So I find ways to be grateful for even the smallest things. And what that does is it raises my frequency. So then I'm high vibey because I'm grateful for so much, you know, warm slippers, a cup of tea. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be something big. I can be very grateful for the smallest things. And so that keeps me on that highest frequency as well. So taking stock of who you are, what you've done, and what you've brought in so far. I actually keep a warm fuzzy file.
The warm fuzzy file.
Now,
talk to us about the warm fuzzy file.
A warm fuzzy file can be, if you're into paper, it can be a folder, and this folder can all the things that people have said for you, done for you, all of that sort of stuff, and pieces of gratification, people that have given you certificates, whatever it is. So the warm fuzzy file is when you open that, and mine actually has pom-poms stuck to the outside of it, so it is actually fuzzy. Very neutral. And in there, it's got all things that make me feel good. Now, if you're of a different generation, Alex, your age, then you might be electronic. So you can keep a file on your laptop or file on your computer or G Drive where you've got all of these things that make you feel good. If you you're kinesthetic and you like touching things and that's what makes you happy, I have a warm fuzzy box. I have a box.
Goodness me. Watch out with that soundbite, Christian, when you're editing the podcast. Give that phrase some context.
I have a box, and in there are little things people have given me that have meant something, and I just only have to do is open it up and look at it and touch them. And it just makes me feel amazing. And they can be, oh, look, there's so many strange things in there. There's a cheese cutter in there. There's just a pepper shaker, like without the salt shaker. So there's stories to all of them, but each of them means something. Some of them are badges from the war, but they mean something because the person that gave them to them, and they fill me up. So I constantly lean into looking at the warm fuzzy file, looking in the box, and just reach into who I am and what makes me feel good so that I can stay at that frequency. And yes, the journey to where I'm going, and Alex, to where you're going, we've still got a way to go. Yes, and we still need to give ourselves a pat on the back, recognition, stay in that space of gratitude for the things that we're doing and moving forward. Absolutely. Very important and very, very powerful.
Goodness me. What a lot of awesome advice to unpack there. Thank you for that. I think that's really, really cool. I love the daily practices of gratitude and journaling, that kind of thing, but I like your personal way of doing it with the warm and fuzzies. And I'll tell you one thing, if I can, respond to one part of that where you said the younger generation have a file on your laptop. I would say absolutely do not have a file on your laptop and your phone, because when you're on your phone and your laptop, you're like, oh, where's my warm fuzzy folder? Ping, email. Oh shit. Ping, Bill. Ping, TikTok. Ping, freaking Johnny Depp and Amber Heard notification. And that shit is what is messing us up more than anything. I'm 100% sure of that. I would never tell anyone how to live their life, but that is what I would say. That's why I still have my little notebook here and do as much as possible not on my computer, even though I work in the digital space. Really, really cool. So you do have a high vibe. You got a very high vibe, and it's very energizing. So thank you once again for everything you bring into the podcast today. It's awesome. Let's talk about speaking. You're currently the chief of the Speakers Tribe in South Australia. What does that mean?
Yeah, so going through the process of learning how to share my story is I went to the Speakers Institute and learned how to speak. And then from that space, they have a community where it's a tribe where people who've gone through their courses stay in proximity so that they can practice their craft, really. So on a monthly basis, we meet in person and we have an opportunity to practice our pitch, to practice speaking, to get feedback on what it is that we do. So that happens in each state of Australia, and then it happens globally as well. So we've got a USA, we've got India, and we've also got Singapore. So I did run the global board for the Speakers Tribe, but I've stepped down so that I can step into my own space and lean into my mind shift processes and more speaking on stage. So yeah, I love it because, you know, speaking is not just I'll just watch that video or I'll just go do that course. It's not. And we need to practice it on a daily basis. We need to get feedback from people who are in the industry. And there's lots of things to nail. It's not just your content. It's 80% of what you speak. Well, 80% of the delivery is methodology. So the way to nail methodology is get feedback. And the way to do that is to be in the company of people that are doing it so that they can actually give you the feedback. Makes all of the difference.
I couldn't agree more. It's something I'm working on myself at the moment, is getting into a bit of a speaking career because I really enjoy it. I always find myself as an MC at weddings, and I used to host trivia, and I did Toastmasters for a bit and did really well. And I just love it. But recently I started working with a lady called Wendy Corner, who is a speaking and communications coach from Western Australia. And she works with sort of TEDx and a few of these bigger institutions. And I did an event for her where I did like a 10-minute speech, and it was a Zoom one, right? And she made us watch back our speeches, and instantly, glaringly, I never stopped fucking moving, Sharlene. And it's because I'm in a spinny chair, right? You know, so I'm in a spinny chair, and my just energy came out. And I used to be you got a straight back chair. Look at that. I used to be a trivia host, and I would like hold my microphone. I'd be running around the room and like high-fiving people. And I just kind of brought that to my Zoom speeches. And when I looked at it back, it was so distracting. And so I stopped doing it. But getting that feedback is super duper interesting. So let's talk about actually people moving into this speaking career, because I know a lot of coaches think it's a wonderful way to get your word out there, social proof, whether it's pitching or teaching, that sort of thing. How did you make yourself stand out as a speaker to the point where companies were really excited to bring you on board rather than all the other options out there?
Yes. So you need to stand out from the crowd. So, and as a marketer, you'll appreciate that it needs to be about the entire package. So your branding needs to be on point. So if I look at your branding and it looks like your mum's done it, I'm not going to be inclined to book you for a high level speaking. Yes, I might ask you for the local church or maybe the Rotary Club or the school, but I wouldn't ask you to speak on stage at a corporate position. So when we pull back the curtains and have a look, are you branded? Does it look like as if you've got some marketing guidelines happening there? Do you have a sizzle reel? Do you have a one sheet? Do you have a secret sauce message? Do you, when we see any pictures of you, do they look like they're professionally taken, or does it look like you've taken them with your phone? So all of these things and more. And, when we go to your website, is it so busy with all of the things that you do that we can't even navigate the fact that speaking is one of the things that you offer? So if you go to my website, Sharlene Lynch, you'll see it asks you, are you looking at coaching? Are you looking at speaking? So then it takes them down two different rabbit holes. One is the coaching and then one is the speaking, because someone that's going to employ me for coaching is not going to employ me for speaking, and someone who employs me for speaking is not going to employ me for coaching. And, the other thing is people follow people. So if I asked you, do you follow Virgin Airlines or do you follow Richard Branson? Probably most of you listening to this today are going to say, oh, well, I follow Richard. You probably even get his newsletter from LinkedIn as well. And that's because people follow people. So, what's your website? Is it your name? Or is it some other fancy name? So everything that I do is under Sharlene Lynch. So Mindshift fits in underneath Sharlene Lynch. My Align process to help work with wellness practitioners fits in underneath Sharlene Lynch. So how are you branded? How is it structured? And is it easy for the client to see what it is that you do? And are you actively, if I said to you right now, and I'm just speaking to everybody who's listening to this podcast, either recording or live, if I said to you right now, I've got a speaking gig, it's perfect for you, I just need this and this and this, could you do that for me right now? I need your one sheet, I need your sizzle reel, I need your bio, I need your intro. Could you give that to me right now? And if you're not in a position to be able to hand that to me right now, then you're going to miss that opportunity. So you get that stuff done because it's really, really important. And the other thing is, so because I'm in the speaking world, I find lots of other speaking opportunities. So people have summits, there all sorts of things at conferences. And so I get reached out to all the time to go, hey, do you know speakers that can do this, this, and this? And so I'm forever putting posts out there into different groups and communities and reaching out to people and tapping them on the shoulder saying they're looking for this. Yes, and what astounds me is to see how little response people give to that, so that it's their own fear in and around speaking that stops them moving forward. So here's an opportunity, press this button and you can have an opportunity to win, to get the speaking. And out of 100 people, 10 of them will step up. Why will they step up? Because they believe they are the speaker. They'll step up because they've got the stuff there. They've got the one sheet, they've got the scissor reel, they've got the secret sauce. They can send that, they're in a space where they believe it. And this really does speak, Alex, of something that a lot of the coaches here are probably talking about, which is your RAS, your reticular activating system. If you're not plugged into, well, I am a speaker, then you're not even going to see the speaking opportunities that are knocking on your door right now. Yeah.
Freaking love that. I love that. And it's so funny. If I saw a post like that, I'd be on that like a Labrador on a sandwich. My goodness, that sounds amazing. And just quickly, because I'm not in the industry yet, although I am a speaker, razzing the heck out of it. What's a one sheet?
Yeah, so a one sheet, funnily enough, a one sheet's actually two sheets. We laugh about this in the industry all the time, that a one sheet's actually two sheets. So it's a back-to-back piece of paper. So it can just be, and that's why it's called a one sheet. So what I see a lot of is speakers who people that step into the speaking industry and they throw a lot of money at people that put these assets together for them, but they haven't done the research because they go on for pages. Well, when you're looking to book someone, you're really only going to look at one sheet. You're going to look at the professionalism of the photo on the one sheet. You're going to have a look at the title, and is that title in line with what it is that you're looking for? What are the three things that person speaks on? So you're always going to need three. You're always going to need three talks, always. Yes. And interestingly enough, in the industry, that we all say the same thing. I always list three, but they only ever book me for one. But you still need to have that paradox of choice there so that they can have the other two. And then obviously your bio. So that you don't need your intro on there. You just need your bio on there, because the intro is something that you're going to present to the person who asks you to speak. Now, if you haven't seen a one sheet before, just Google it. Dr. Google will find it for you. The other thing is Canva. We all know Canva. So Canva have templates for one sheet. Some of them are brilliant, others are not, but it depends. If you go and have a look in there, you'll see something that resonates. Oh, I'm having trouble with that word. Aligns with your frequency, makes you feel comfortable, and then reach in and actually use that one. So if you can do Canva, you can create a one sheet. The photo, I will say a professional photo is going to be better than just taking your own. Yes, and in the early days when I started, all my photos were just me taking a selfie, or this on a gimbal, or this on a tripod, and just taking the photo, taking the image. And then Canva also has the capacity to get rid of the background as well. So if the background's not amazing, you press another button on Canva and it gets rid of the background. So yeah, Alex, does that answer your question about what a one sheet is?
Yeah, and more. It's that kind of tangible advice, which just is super duper helpful. And the whole reason I started this podcast, because there's podcasts for hearing your amazing story, that kind of thing. This one, I want people to come away and be like, with notes like I've just written down, one sheet, 3 talks, professional pictures, Canva templates, that sort of thing. Hugely, hugely important. So.
And Alex, you just actually touched on something too. You really do need to have nailed your pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So a 60-second max pitch as to what it is that you deliver. And now we're living in a different environment now thanks COVID. And this has just been since COVID, but speaking gigs now require you to create a video to get the job. So you can create a very short, maybe 1 to 2 minute video as to why what you bring will is important for their summit or for their conference or for their this. So this is where they've got multiple speakers, and further down the track, they'll tap on your shoulder. Yes, because you'll be in a speaking bureau and they'll book through the bureau or the speaking managers. Yes. So, but yeah, you just need to be able to pitch, and it needs to tick all the boxes. It needs to tick why what you've got to share is important, and why now is important. So if you can tick off those 3 things in your pitch, and normally 1 to 2 minutes on a video. And if you're speaking to people, if you're at a networking event, your pitch needs to be about 1 minute.
Pitch, yeah, amazing. That's massive. Huge advice, Sharlene, and really, really good and tangible for a lot of people, myself included. Thank you. My secondary brand, I'm well aware that my marketing business isn't particularly scalable to the world. We need like 10 clients and we're good, because it's all done for you. It's something that very, very hands-on. I want to talk to a lot of people, and I can't pitch a whole room full of people on me doing their marketing for them, because I'll be in the shit, right? So I've got a new brand, which is about a lot of the stuff we've talked about, which is helping online entrepreneurs to actually be more engaged with the offline world and not be so addicted to their phones and their screens, because it's very, very easy for us to be like, oh, my income is correlated to how many Instagram followers I've got, and be on the sofa at night just scrolling and checking your Stripe account and all that kind of thing. And so I'm super duper aware of that, especially since I had my daughters, and it's a scary, scary thing. So this is what I want to speak about to the world, because I'm taking some steps towards that, and it's absolutely changing my life for the better. So I'm trying to come up with a sensitive way of giving that advice to other people without preaching, So enough about me. One last thing I wanted to talk about was something that you brought up at the beginning of our conversation, which is that you're helping a lot of wellness practitioners now move from a one-to-one model, maybe a face-to-face in-person model, to one-to-many, so they can actually start to scale. That is a position I know some of our listeners are in right now, which is one-to-one to one-to-many. It's a massive question, but maybe can you give us an idea of the first sort of steps they can take to do that?
Yeah, I love it. And yes, it is a massive question, but it requires some context as to why I am the person for the job. So I've been speaking now for a little while, and I have been a business coach, or I've been a coach in mindset. So a mindset coach for more than 30 years. Yes, and there's a billion of us. We're everywhere. Everybody teaches mindset. Yes, and when I shifted into speaking about mind shift, the future of mindset, understanding that our mind is not set, that it is malleable, and we can start by changing the language. How about we stop calling it set and start calling it mind shift and using shift language? So that in itself is huge. So then I became an expert authority in the shift process and sharing with people how they can shift between where they are and where they want to be, just using those 5 paradigms, using those 5 pillars to move through their process to get out the other side. So I became the expert authority when they were looking, especially at the beginning of COVID, we need to help people shift. We need to help people move. They need to be able to handle change. I was very busy. Yes, and the speaking on stage wasn't as busy because everything shut down. So I was still able to communicate on camera, but not in person. So I needed to find another way to make an income outside of the speaking fees. And I had this great success with being able to move into being an expert authority on the shift process and not just be another mindset coach. So that's what I started to share with my clients. And then it's just grown legs and it's become a thing. So it's basically unpacking what it is that you bring to the planet. And with a lot of wellness practitioners and wellness coaches, you have more than one modality. You might have NLP, you might be kinesiologist, might be light language, it could be color, there could be Reiki, it could be a lot of different things that you bring as a wellness practitioner. And what is the thing that you do? And so if you can't succinctly tell somebody what it is that you do and how you do it, then you definitely need the align process. And that is where we unpack all the gold that's inside of your mind, everything, all the things that make you amazing and have got you to where you are. And then we work out how you work with your clients, and then we work out who really your client needs to be. So knowing your audience and your avatar is a very big piece of everything, not just this. It's also very important from a speaking perspective. And then once we've worked out the process, we work out what it is they receive from working with you. And then we put this together and we make infographics. So infographics are a diagrammatic explanation of what it is that you do. So we work out, we've got 4 models that explain what it is you do, how you do it, and how you get them there, and their KPIs that they get from it. And we put that together to create your pitch deck. So then if you're not a speaker and you're not really comfortable, you can talk, but it's not your thing, and mostly you need notes, is that you're just speaking to the slide. And now, because you know this, and we've gone through the process of unpacking the gold inside of your mind, you're just speaking to the slide. And I can guarantee you will not just speak for 1 minute. That going through these slides, you'll be able to do a 2.5-day workshop just speaking to the slides without notes. So that's the process that we take people through. These slides that we put together also create your sales brochure, so that people know exactly what you do, the journey you take them on, and it's in a brochure that can be printed or it can actually be delivered online as well. And we also create the graphics in and around the workbooks that you might have to put together to run your workshops, and also moving into creating your online programs as well. So we start up here. And that's what I noticed with Mindshift is because I started up here and then everything falls in underneath that, there's an umbrella term and I've only got one thing. So that I'm not, because I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur and have this, and this, yeah, which is great. However, then when I go to explain what it is that I do, there's no clarity speaking to somebody. And I'm not known for that because people will forget within a few minutes of speaking with you. But if you can have one message, one thing, and everything falls in under the one thing, so everything I talk about is Mindshift, then it all just it resonates. In fact, when I finish speaking with someone and then I see their type of message, or I talk to them later, I notice they change their language and they're now talking about, I've shifted. And so I know that the message is resonating. I'm still having problems with that word.
I'm going to write that one down.
It's hitting their frequency. I'll find another way to get it done. And really, it's very powerful. So the process is we spend a couple of hours together. We unpack all of that. We get it all out. It's a beautiful process. In fact, all of my clients go, oh, I really felt totally aligned with this process, and I found out things about myself that I'd forgotten, and now I'm feeling powerful. I'm feeling that I can share my message, and I've got this clarity that I didn't. You said this is a business coaching process, but this is more than that. It's something much deeper happening, and clients go on to build huge businesses, and some of them in speaking, some of them want to now transition and work one to many. So they're now running online courses, they're running programs, they're running online workshops, they're speaking to groups as well, they're becoming speakers, they're writing books, because when they're finished, if they haven't written a book, what we unpack is the framework for a book. So they can take this framework and they just need to put some meat on it and they can create a book. So it's a lot in one process, and it's a beautiful, beautiful journey of self-discovery and unpacking the gold. So yeah, Alex, I don't know if I answered your question. Were you looking for a step-by-step process of how it happens?
I'm looking for whatever comes out and whatever works for you. And that was a beautiful, beautiful answer. And to be honest, if anyone's not sold by that, I don't know what they will be sold by, because you're right. There's 1 billion and one mindset coaches out there, but to have such a freaking tangible outcome as a pitch deck, infographics, the ability to create a workshop, absolutely massive. I probably recently hired a competitor of yours to do something very similar for myself to help me move into speaking. His name's Travis Bell, the bucket list guy, and he's a great speaker, and he's doing the same sort of thing for me. So I'm really, really excited. Otherwise, I would be signing up today at SharleneLynch.com, Lynch with a Y, and Sharlene with an S. So super excited. I've got to pop those links in the description of this podcast. But I've got to bounce off to talk to Travis now. So I could keep this conversation going for literally hours because I'm having such a blast. But Sharlene, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I've really, really enjoyed speaking with you.
Such a blessing. Thanks, Alex. Bye for now.
You are amazing. And everyone who is watching on the live stream or listening later on, or the recording or the clips, you're amazing as well. Thank you so much for being here. I'll be back next week with a couple more episodes of Coaches to the Moon. Until then, thank you so much for listening.